The holding cells of the Kryn research station smelled of ozone and old blood. Vortal sat motionless in his reinforced containment unit, his lupine form coiled with predatory stillness. His species, the Velnar, were known across 17 star systems as apex hunters, creatures so efficient at killing that most civilizations had deemed them too dangerous for integration into galactic society. He watched through amber eyes as they dragged the human girl into the adjacent cell, Kara. Wynn didn't scream when they threw her against the cold metal floor. She was young by human standards, perhaps 20 cycles, Vortal estimated, with dark hair matted with sweat and blood. The Kryn researchers observed her through the transparent aluminum barrier, their insectoid heads tilting with clinical curiosity. Subject 47H, one of them clicked in their chittering language. Neural pain threshold test, sequence 7. Vortal understood their speech. He understood many things during his 3 months of captivity. The Kryn were testing various species' tolerance for suffering, cataloging breaking points for some greater project he hadn't yet discerned. They had tested him once, only once. 15 Kryn security personnel had died before they pumped enough neurotoxin into his cell to subdue him. They hadn't tried again. The device they attached to Kara's temples hummed to life. Vortal's ears flattened against his skull as he recognized it. A neural stimulator, designed to trigger every pain receptor simultaneously. He had watched 3 other species subjected to it. None had lasted more than 2 minutes before their minds shattered completely. Kara Wynn lasted 4. She didn't scream until the 90-second mark. Her body convulsed against the restraints, muscles tearing themselves apart under the strain. Blood vessels burst in her eyes, turning them crimson. Still she held on. At 3 minutes, when most beings would have retreated into catatonic shock, she began to laugh, a broken, defiant sound that echoed through the cell block. Curious, the lead researcher clicked. Human neural architecture shows unexpected resilience. Increase intensity to maximum. Vortal's claws extended involuntarily, scraping against the reinforced floor of his cell. Something ancient stirred in his chest, something his people called Jakar, the warrior's recognition of worthy prey. But this wasn't prey. This was something else entirely. When they finally deactivated the device, Kara collapsed onto the floor, twitching. The Kryn researchers made their notes and departed, leaving her broken body in the cell. Hours passed. The station's artificial night cycle dimmed the lights. Vortal remained awake, as he always did, watching the human girl. She should have been dead or insane. Instead, slowly, impossibly, she began to move. First, her fingers twitched, then her arm. Within an hour, Kara Wynn pushed herself to her hands and knees, trembling but conscious. She lifted her head and her bloodshot eyes met Vortal's across the divide between their cells. "Hey," she croaked, her voice raw. "Big guy, you speak basic?" Vortal tilted his massive head, considering. He had never spoken to his captors, maintaining the facade of a mere beast. But something in this human's eyes, a spark that 4 minutes of manufactured hell hadn't extinguished, compelled him. "I speak many languages," he rumbled, his voice a deep growl that vibrated through the deck plating. Kara's lips curved into a smile that was more grimace than joy. "Good, because I'm getting us out of here, and I need to know if you're with me or against me." "You can barely stand," Vortal observed. "Yeah, well..." She dragged herself to the wall, using it to lever herself upright. Her legs shook, but she stood. "Humans are funny that way. We're not the strongest or the fastest. Hell, we're not even the smartest. But we're really, really good at not dying when we're supposed to." Over the next 3 days, Vortal learned the truth of her words. The Kryn returned each day with new torments. Chemical burns, oxygen deprivation, extreme temperature fluctuation. Each time, they pushed Kara to the edge of death. Each time, she crawled back from it. Between sessions, she talked. About Earth, a world Vortal had heard of only in passing. A recently contacted species showing promise in trade negotiations. About her brother, who had been killed by raiders that the Kryn had hired. About how she had been investigating the connection when they captured her. "They think humans are weak," Kara said on the 3rd night. Her voice steady despite the new burns covering her arms. "Everyone does. We're not big like you. We don't have natural weapons or armor. Our homeworld is a death trap that tried to kill us for millions of years." She laughed, that same broken, beautiful sound. But we're still here. Know why? Why? Vortal asked, genuinely curious. Because we're too stupid to quit and too mean to die. On the fourth day, the Kryn made their mistake. They needed to move Kara to a more advanced testing facility, and the sedative they used, calibrated for human physiology from outdated data, wasn't quite enough. When she opened her eyes on the transport gurney, her hands were free for exactly 3 seconds. 3 seconds was all Kara Wynn needed. She jammed her thumbs into the guard's compound eyes, seized his plasma cutter, and severed her restraints in one fluid motion. Alarms shrieked. Security personnel swarmed, and Kara, bleeding and burned and broken, fought like something that had forgotten how to be afraid. She made it to the cell block, made it to the control panel. Her fingers danced across alien interfaces. Bypassing security protocols with knowledge she shouldn't have possessed, Vortal's cell door hissed open. Now, big guy, Kara panted, leaning heavily against the console. Show them why they were right to be scared. Vortal emerged like living nightmare. The Kryn had never seen a Velnar at full combat capacity. They learned. He moved through the station like extinction given form. 10 feet of muscle, fang, and claw that had evolved on a world where nothing died easily. Security doors became suggestions. Armed personnel became obstacles briefly noted and permanently removed. In his wake, Kara followed, limping but determined, sealing bulkheads and triggering life support failures. They fought their way to the hangar bay where a small transport sat fueled and ready. Kara collapsed into the pilot's seat while Vortal held the entrance against a final desperate wave of guards. When the last one fell, he turned to find Kara had already begun launch protocols. "You know how to fly this?" he asked, sliding into the oversized cargo space. "Hell no," she admitted, her hands steady on controls she was clearly improvising with. "But I'm human. We're really good at figuring things out right before we die." The transport launched into the void as the station erupted behind them, secondary explosions blooming like flowers against the dark. Kara set a course for the nearest human outpost, then finally allowed herself to slump forward unconscious. Vortal caught her before she could fall, his massive paw surprisingly gentle. He looked at the human girl who had endured the unendurable, who had freed a monster because she understood that monsters sometimes chose their own purpose. In his language, the old language of his people before they were feared, he spoke a single word: Koresh. Packmate. Sister in blood. When they reached human space 3 days later, Kara woke to find herself covered with the Velnar's thermal pelt, and Vortal still watching over her. "They're going to ask what happened," she said quietly. "Then we tell them the truth," Vortal replied. "We tell them what they learned too late, that humans don't break when they should. And when you torture one, you don't create a victim." His amber eyes gleamed with something almost like pride. "You create a weapon, and if you're very unlucky, you give that weapon allies." Kara smiled, genuine this time. "Welcome to humanity, Vortal. We specialize in being unlucky for the other guy." The message they transmitted to the Galactic Council was brief. The Kryn research station no longer existed. The human girl and the alien wolf who destroyed it were coming home. And the galaxy should remember that some species survived not because they were strong, but because they were too stubborn to accept any other option. Earth had joined the galactic community quietly, cautiously, with diplomatic smiles. That was about to change.